All right, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the July 15, 2024 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair this year. Joining me today is Commissioner Aaron Mays. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Bill Rippon. Good morning.
Good morning.
We also have our county councilor, Mr. Eckert, here. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a work session today, so we do have two items that we're going to take up. The first we're going to take up is from the Solid Waste Department. This is going to be an update on recycling efforts in Shawnee County and where do we stand. So I'm going to turn the podium over to Mr. Bill Sutton.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. I'm going to take a little bit of time here, and I'm going to try to be brief and concise to give Brian as much time as he needs to talk about his important stuff. But not saying that recycling is not important. It is very important. But I'm going to take a condensed version of what I was going to be, but I'm going to try to hit all the information that you wanted to. And some of these slides are going to be redundant for you gentlemen sitting up there, but for anybody that's new to this, just kind of shed some light on the solid waste department. And the first thing is, of course, the solid waste department is user fee funded 100% with no tax dollars used. So what does that mean to everybody that's listening in? It means I do not get any taxpayers assistance at all, and all my operating funds come from my user fees. So it is very important that I do a good job for my customers, because that is what my operating revenue is. Speaking of operating revenue, this graph just kind of highlights my 2023 funds and where all the funds come from. As you can see, is just right at $18 million was my operating revenue last year. A majority of it does come from the residential, both residential within the city and urban. But you can kind of see my commercial slice, my roll off, and then all those little minor slices as well. As you can recall, going back to 2023, our contract with WM expired, and it was a pretty beneficial contract for us as a 10-year contract. This new contract is not very beneficial for us to the point that we had to adopt a user fee if you wanted to recycle. And there were several things that went into that and how we planned it out. But as you can see, that highlighted portion there, it started off with a $149 processing fee per ton. So for every ton of recycling that I took to the MRF, I got charged immediately $149. And then I got 80% of the revenue for any of the commodities sold. So when we planned this out, we did a worst case, best case, and we kind of figured out that $3.50 was a pretty fair price to charge for recycling for every resident. And you kind of can see up there, we did a worst case scenario, and that $69,000 was what we was kind of anticipating paying on a monthly basis just for our recycling. The very first thing that we did back in 2023 is we got rid of those blue bins that were throughout the county. Those were a major source of our contamination. As you can see, this one, particular one here, was a 45th and Shawnee Heights. It was an eyesore to the community out there. 45th and Shawnee Heights is an illegal dump site. Pretty much all of our convenience boxes became illegal dump sites that we had to monitor on a daily basis, as well as just the contamination that was put in there. And when I talk about contamination, it was gross contamination, wood products, bags, just trash in general. We had carpets, we had horse manure that was just dumped in there repeatedly. And when those things happened, that entire load just got contaminated. So thankfully, you all supported my efforts in getting rid of those boxes out there. All right, so we decided how we was going to implement this $3.50. It wasn't going to be a popular thing for everybody, and it was not. So we gave the residents a chance to opt out. We had to opt everybody in just because of the billing system and the mechanism that we had to get rid of our recycling customers that did not want to participate was the opt-out function. And we put it right there on our webpage. It's still up there, so we still continually have residents that opt out on a weekly basis. It was going like gangbusters the first couple months, as you can expect, and we're down to about 5 per week now, if that. Just people just wake up one day and decide, you know, this is not for me. We started 2023, January, at 48,000 customers. This is purely recycling customers. And we're all the way down to 4,200 or 42,000 customers. And that's a decrease. Oh, that's a pretty significant decrease, just a little bit under 6,000. But using our opt-out function, we had 7,000 opt-out, so right at 15% opted out. But you say, Bill, that math is not mathing there. Why is these customers at? The new customers that we gained. So between January 2023 and now, we've gained 1,700 customers, and that's where that difference comes up. Another great thing that we did for the community is cardboard. As you know, a lot of people generate cardboard. I know Mr. Mays always pushes me on the holidays to get some cardboard boxes out there just for the customers. Cardboard is revenue generating. Pure cardboard is revenue generating. And so we put these cardboard boxes out there, and they've been very, very clean. I've not gotten too many complaints from WM, our recycler, about the contents of these boxes. And those boxes are able to go to the MRF, be dumped right on the floor, and immediately baled, so I don't really pay that whole processing fee that I do on the single stream because it's not really being processed. And then those actually generate revenue for the department. So those boxes out there are a good thing. I'm actually trying to increase the number of boxes just because of the overwhelming demand for these boxes, especially up north at 46th Street and then throughout the county there. Another campaign that we did was just getting information out there and utilizing Stephanie here in the commission office with her background. We designed some new flyers, just trying to get the information out there to everybody and putting this information out on the webpage, Facebook, and then whoever wants it. All right, now I'll just talk about some graphs here, the major portions here. So if you look at, this is my commodity market per ton. This is what that 80% revenue is that I get back. So as you kind of look, we had a huge drop off there in August of 23, and that was the plastic markets just tanking for some reason. It's just like any other market, you know, there's a hiccup in the system and the market's just tanking. It's slowly been rebounding. But as you can see, we're on a slow but steady increase. So that's why my latest invoices from WM, they're pretty consistent, right about that $25,000 to $35,000 mark. That's what our invoices are.
Commissioner Rippon?
Yeah, what is that HDPE?
HDPE is high density polyethylene. That's your number 2 plastics.
Okay.
So there's 2 categories of those. So there's natural, which is your milk jugs, and then there's colored. Obviously natural is more desirable because there's more options to do with natural. Once you get into the colored, then basically colored can make colored, but natural can make both, if that makes sense. All right. And this is kind of just how we've done. As you can see, in 2023, the total WM fees for my contract fees that I paid to recycle WM was $492,000. My total expenses with vehicles, wages, fuel, all expenses total was a little over $1 million for the entire year. And we took in 1.5. So we put a little bit of money back into the fund to help out with other operating expenses. But so for the first time in probably a long time, we've actually made money for recycling. Not that we're here to make money, but we've actually been to the positive. We averaged 611 tons. That's pretty consistent with what we've done historically. It's a little bit down since we've kicked out glass and just got rid of some of those convenience boxes. We were around 725, but now, like I said, we're around 611. And the most important thing is my contamination dropped significantly. Those customers that opted out, they probably weren't my best recycling customers. Plus, with the convenience boxes, we went from a 37% contamination rate all the way down to a 20%. So that is definitely a win in my book. And just continuing to get the word out there to everybody, hopefully we can drop that even lower. A lot of people don't realize that glass is still a contaminant. And that's my focus this year, is to get the glass out of the single stream boxes, as well as bags. Any items that are bagged within these cans automatically get thrown away. So you could think you're doing a good job and helping us out by bagging these items, but in reality, you're not helping us at all. And those items automatically get sorted out to MRF. So please do not bag your recycles. All right, and then since I have all three of you guys, gentlemen here, I would like to take this opportunity just to go over some concerns and opportunities, and then I'll be talking to each of you probably individually in the next coming weeks to see what your thoughts are on some of these. Major concerns coming up in the near future is next year, both my refuse contract ends with WM. It ends in June 13th, so we'll have to figure out what we're going to do, whether we extend or whether we go out to RFP, or what our options are for our trash contract, as well as my recycling ends at the end or the beginning of 2026. So again, we have automatic extensions built in there if both parties agree, and you can kind of see where I'm at right now currently. And there's annual CPI increases to both of those. Another concern is I do have some retirements coming up, or not they're anticipated at some point. My office manager, been with the county for 43 years, got a lot of institutional knowledge with her, and if she up and decides to leave, that'll sting. It won't be an office or a door closer, but we'll get through that. And then I have some very senior supervisors that I'm on to work through too and find replacements for those. Staffing, we're doing very well. Remember COVID staffing levels was a nightmare. I'm only down one driver now, and I'm still looking for an assistant HHW manager out there on 46th Street. And as well as my routeware contract expires at the end of 2025. Thanks to you gentlemen, you gave me the ability to go out and get routeware, which is basically our dispatching software. It was our first venture into the digital world, and we found some issues with it, and we're still trying to decide if that's the way that we want to go. So we're looking at what is available out there and to see what our options are with that routeware system. Some opportunities we have, if you remembered this past winter, it was absolutely horrible, and there were some streets that we could not get up and down, and there were some customers that we would not be able to service for, almost 2 weeks. So we've seen this thing, and pretty excited about this, and again, I'd like to talk to you guys individually next week, possibly, and get your take on this. Basically, it's a 1-ton long bed pickup truck, and that is a 6-yard container in the back of it, and that apparatus can service about 40 households before you back up to another trash truck and dump right in the trash truck. So you could have a refuse truck positioned on a good street and have this run the side streets and then dump in there, and that way we don't have any service interruption there. Total all in would be less than $90,000 for this for the vehicle and the equipment, and for 1-ton vehicles are on the dealership lots right now, so I would not have to wait for or to have one built or anything like that. And then long-term opportunity, and this would be something that we definitely have to research, is to look at the possibility of developing a compost facility in Shawnee County. Don't get too excited, Eric, over there. I see you. Whether or not this is actually feasible, I know Olathe has a very successful one. I know Sedgwick County has a very successful one. Lawrence has a very successful one. And I'm just kind of seeing what everybody's thoughts are about developing a compost facility within the county to handle some of the yard waste that we seem to be getting lots of amounts of, and then in turn generating a good product that people can use as well. So that being said, gentlemen, I am subject to your questions.
Questions?
Yeah, the compost, that, you sell it by the ton then when it's all cooked and ready, or?
So I can speak on what I know about, because again, I thought about this the other day when I was cutting my grass and I seen some bare spots. I'd be like, man, I'd love to have some compost. I could amend this. Lawrence charges, I believe, $20 for a pickup load. And you load, they come in on weekends, on Saturday morning, you load it up, pay $20 and you go away. So again, we just have to figure out what our options are. I don't know what Olathe does. I do not know what Sedgwick County does. Yes, sir.
I buy, they sell it by the cubic yard. I buy a cubic yard of compost from the Save Topeka's facility managed by Garrett. Is it Garrett?
Mhm.
It's about 25 bucks, but I buy compost there once a year. So it's pretty good stuff when it's not on fire. But, there's already a place that sells that here in Topeka. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Is that compost or is that mulch?
They have both.
Okay. But just something to think about. Yeah.
Commissioner Reyes?
So I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
The Easy Dump truck, is that something that you're only wanting to use in the winter? Or is this something that you envision using on some of our more distant rural routes as
So
well?
that is a great question. So no, I'd be kind of foolhardy to buy something that you could only use in the winter, like a snowplow, Kirk. But anyway, this would be a great opportunity. For example, say there is a missed customer out in Rossville or in Auburn, and obviously, you know, the way we move, we section our counties, so this could be something that a qualified personnel or even a supervisor could jump into, run all the way back out there, take care of that customer, and therefore we're not putting a truck that's less fuel efficient going all the way out there with 3 gentlemen in there. So there's other opportunities to use this particular vehicle, even picking up a special pickup that has a lot of bulky, or not bulky items, but a lot of trash bags or something like that. So very versatile.
Do you have any idea on the fuel efficiency compared? I mean, I know your trucks don't get very good fuel mileage, but I mean, it looks like would be fully loaded pretty much in terms of weight.
So obviously you could go with the diesel option or the gas option. Personally, I would like to go with the gas option. So we're probably looking around 10, or not 10, probably like 14 to 16 miles a gallon versus 3 miles a gallon with a big truck.
Okay.
Could this be used for recycle too?
Absolutely, sir. Yep.
Might be something we want to do a pilot program on before we go all in. The other thing I had was on the tonnage with the recycling, was the numbers that you had compared, it had gone down quite a bit. Can some of that be attributed to the fact that there's less glass in there?
Absolutely, sir.
Because, I mean, the glass is the heaviest recyclable there is, and when we were paying for the tonnage, even when it wasn't really getting recycled. So, I mean, is that a good portion of that, you think?
Absolutely. We seen when we created the glass program back in 2020, obviously there's a significant drop off. So I would say the glass was already removed in some of this data, but we saw a significant decrease when we pulled out those blue boxes back in 2023, and we started charging for it.
Is that program going well?
Absolutely, sir. Yes. I believe we just sent out a load in June, so I'm about up to 125, I want to say, tons this year, and I have a full bunker. My constraint is with them, because obviously it's a free program, Ripple's paying for everything. is the transportation. So I'm limited to when they can get a truck over here to pick it up.
And we have plenty of locations for those now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bill, the cardboard that we're baling, we do that at the MRF plant?
Yes, sir.
Here locally?
No.
The baler is still operational up there, and they have like 3 personnel up there still. So they will bale the pure cardboard right there on the spot.
Okay.
But everything else gets loaded into trailers and sent to Kansas City.
All right.
You said that the cardboard is pretty low contamination from the actual clean cardboard bins. What kind of contamination have you been seeing there? I mean, are people dumping trash in there still, or is it?
You talking about the cardboard?
Pizza boxes, a pizza box gonna set that off nowadays, or?
Let's not talk about pizza boxes.
Okay.
Because depending on what day of the week, whether or not pizza boxes are accepted. So for cardboard, just small stuff, every once in a while we'll get in a trash bag or something there for whatever reason. But since the initial set of those yellow cardboard boxes, they have been extremely, extremely clean. Because people understand that it's a program that could go away pretty quick if they start getting abused. So people kind of take care, and if you're going to drive all that distance to put cardboard in, you're going to make sure it's clean.
Good.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And our second presentation of the morning, turn it over to the Department of Corrections to give us an update on the Behavioral Health Unit.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. As you all know, we've been doing a number of months of work on the design phase of our behavioral health unit that we're going to build on the southeast corner of our property. We wanted to, as we approach the beginning of our actual construction, we wanted to have a session with you all to let you get a glimpse of what we have put together by way of design and what our go-forward plan is. So what we have done is we've brought today folks from KBS, Mr. Joel Chris, Lauren Deckett. We've also brought some folks from HTK, which is the architect firm, Zach Sneethan, Elizabeth Johnson, and Cassandra Taylor. I got that right, didn't I? Okay. And we also have, because we want to try to feed the future in our department, we've got Lieutenant James Worley, who is our facilities unit supervisor, run alongside with me on this project so he can learn the proverbial ropes. And of course, Director Cole's here to make us all look good. So what we want to do today is begin, look at this in 3 phases. We'll start with having the folks from KBS do a little presentation and let you folks see some stuff. And then if there's questions about that, we of course can field those questions jointly. And then Director Cole's going to talk a little bit about the planned programming, and then I might finish up with a few thoughts about where we're headed in the future with this particular unit. So with that, Lauren, you want to step up, or Zach, and start us out? You go ahead.
Morning, Commissioners. Zach Sneethan, HTK Architects. And I'm going to handle just a brief on the design portion of this project, and give you an update of where we're at from a design standpoint, and then Lauren's going to step in and talk about budget and schedule here. Overall, the facility is a 23,000 square foot, 3 levels. 2 levels will be finished, and 1 level will be shell space for future expansion. That includes, today will be 40 beds, plus that future expansion will be able to plus up to additional 20 beds. It's connected, as Major Phelps said, it's built on the southeast corner of the current facility there. And there's a connecting link that has access from all 3 floors on that link, or on the existing building. 3 floors connect into the new 3 floors. That was a priority in understanding how people would respond to, staff and personnel would respond if there was an incident in the unit, being able to have, kind of maximize that connection capabilities between the existing and the new space there. And then as we work through the program level and then into design, really looking and focusing on, what differentiates this from the rest of the facility in terms of being able to address mental health issues. Can we improve the environment to help with individuals that need additional mental health assistance. A lot of that is just providing ability to provide more daylight into the spaces, the day rooms, the cells, providing some color and some just a more trying to get to a more normalized environment that will help with rehabilitation efforts.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lauren Deckett with KBS Constructors. Just want to give an update on budget and schedule. Budget, we've got a $20 million total budget. We will stay at or below that. Contract-wise, we've got our main contract already established, which was for design and our pre-construction services. We'll have 2 follow-up amendments, not addendums, but amendments. One will be for, we'll put out the work to bid for the civil utilities, concrete and structural. Strategy there is kind of a early start and fast tracking process. The last amendment would be for the balance of the work. So that is where we're headed budget-wise, and we're on track for that. Schedule-wise, we're well into construction documents. We'll be submitting for a building permit here in a few days, which is on track with where we need to be. We'll start construction right around mid-August. It will be probably a light start with more mobilization. We'll get really start up in earnest right around the 1st of September, and we anticipate to be done with construction right around April of 2026. So we're on track and doing well.
And then just to step through, we've got some images to show to start to see how the building sits on the site. You can see this portion, which I can do. There we go. This portion here is the new addition. You can see the various additions, other additions. The connecting link that I mentioned will be kind of back in behind here, that'll connect to that 94 edition, I think it was. Just some other views. We tried to tie the facility in from a material standpoint, utilizing brick, matches the existing brick, some metal panel on that white portion there. And see, this is that over here is that link that connects all 3 levels of that previous addition to the new portion. Back in here, over here, we've got the day rooms, ample natural light coming into those day room areas. Looking at a cutaway floor plan, the perimeter, there's the 20 cells per floor ring the perimeter here, have both a main day room and kind of a sub day room space. There's an outdoor rec area per floor that inmates will be able to go out into, and then there's a series of different therapy rooms, visitation rooms, showers up in this portion of the building here. Just a view looking into the day room, the cells along the left edge there, the day room and then being able to have some natural light that floods into that day room area there. And Mr. Phelps, wanted to Director Cole?
Brian Cole, Department of Corrections, Shawnee County. I almost get emotional when I think about this because this has been a long time for me. This is one of the biggest projects, and I've been through 4 of them now at Department of Corrections, and a lot of people talk to me about what mental health and means to me. I come from a mental health family. My family is all involved in mental health and providing quality care, and I kind of went the corrections route. And one of the things that I want to first start off is saying thank you to Rich Eckert, Jim Crowell, prior to him, Commission. We're an innovator county, meaning our contribution, our attention to providing adequate care, but the care that's expected to us by the courts is tremendous. It's a tremendous challenge. Many years ago, I was able to go to a couple conferences, and a lot of people there smarter than me gave me a book that said, these are the 5 things that'll keep you out of trouble. So I said, Tim, you're smarter than me, read this book, and I want you to tell me the 5 things that's going to keep Shawnee County out of trouble. One of them is you have to have a suicide plan with a intake screening. And, you know, Tim and I are going to be delivering a message to the Kansas Mental Health Association on Wednesday. And unfortunately, Shawnee County had to learn some things hard way. We had a suicide back in '99, and we had to make a great deal of change. And we do have that. We do have a nationally recognized suicide prevention plan with an intake screening that also involves suicide precautions when it comes from law enforcement. One of the things is you have to have credentialed staff. We've had credentialed staff providing services for a long time, especially since 2000. And we had the health department before that who provided good care. But as the courts ruled that you're going to start operating more as a mental health facility than a correction facility, that starts causing, I know people like Rich Eckert, angst about what are we doing. And so then they talk about classification systems, which we have, discharge planning, which we have. The last thing that we didn't really have was housing. We have behavioral health people all over the facility. The days of throwing people with mental health facilities just because they don't get along into a segregation unit is gone. We can no longer operate that. In fact, even on the juvenile side, you have mandates that say reduce segregation. We still have the segregation area, but this is something, a behavioral health area that specializes in this is what is needed. Shawnee County is a front runner, in my opinion, when it comes to the treatment and care of those with behavioral health. We do this not because we're lenient on crime. In fact, it's just the opposite. We understand that people are going to be remanded to our custody. This goes to treating people fairly. The majority of people that we have in our facility are not convicted of anything. It goes to proper care and management of those who suffer with mental illness that the courts are demanding. Also, and the highest priority is safety and security for the community, the inmates, and staff. That is the biggest issue. That's our main thing. So a lot of people say, you know, Brian, you're going to build this. We couldn't do this without the help of the state of Kansas. They're helping us out and providing $10 million in this, and I can't thank enough. You know, Commissioner Cook had sent me on that path many years ago and said, we need to start reaching. This is an expensive endeavor. And so they're a proud participant of this, and I can't thank them enough. But when it comes to programming, things that we're going to be providing is on the first floor of what we're looking at right now. Instead of just having suicide inmates staying aside of the room, they're going to be out. They're going to be engaging is what we're going to be doing. Providing as much as 20 hours is what our plan is of programming. Rec therapy, cognitive thinking, medication compliance, reentry services, and you name it, a whole type of that. And there will be some leisure type things because there's going to be time. It isn't just going to be from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to bed, programming, giving them time. And I've worked in state hospitals, and leisure is a huge part of that. So we're gonna be working with that, having offices and staff stationed inside and going in there, working hand in hand, peer support for those who are consumers of the community coming in and providing that. And one of the other steps we had in community corrections was putting somebody in mirror, will be inside the facility to help for discharge planning. So that's what's gonna be part of this. It's not just saying take a pill, go about your way. It's medication compliant and providing more and more services. We have a tremendous amount of statistical data that shows who we have and what we have in Shawnee County. The national average is about 16%. We run as high as 50%. That would meet a shared definition of what serious mental illness is, and stepping in, going through our stepping up, which is now going into the juvenile side. But we're gonna be working on this. This floor plan is tremendous, and I wanna say thank you, because this provides the light, the color, the movement, and the ability of control for our staff of visual sights and things like that. The other thing is that right now, and I'm, you know, when it comes to program, we're gonna continue that, having that and input from the state on our community stakeholders, because we have Vallejo that is in the facility every week for the continuity of care. But I wanna bring, you know, Major Phelps up there, because not only is he the project manager for this with Lieutenant Worley, who's gonna be doing the ins and outs of the maintenance, a big part of what we're looking at in our commitment to the state, also to our consumers, is competency restoration. So I want to have Tim come up and talk a little bit about what we're doing today as far as mobile competency restoration, and what our plan and working with the courts are going forward with competency restoration.
Commissioners, before I talk specifically about competency, I did want to add one thought to what Director Cole shared with you about this facility and the construction of it. One might think that building a jail is just building a jail. And if we put some fluffy stuff in there, then it'll look like a happier jail for people with behavioral health issues. But that isn't reality. What I've done with the folks at HDK and KBS is, and I appreciate their patience with me throughout it, is I've been trying to force them between two very hard and heavy rocks. On the one hand, we need security, we need safety, and therefore we need things that will be able to sustain what inmates do within a correctional facility. And really that's been the bread and butter of this industry for decades. And then on the other side, we have to do something that takes some of the pressure off of behavior of people with severe mental illness and behavioral dysfunctions. And because of that, we start trying to force them to do things that don't look industrial, that they don't look like a construction or a corrections environment. So for example, I asked them to leave this picture up because those windows that look to the outside there, those don't look like anything else we have in our facility. Those look more residential, but they meet the ballistic needs and the safety needs that we have inside a correctional environment. But they look more like what you might see in a home environment. And it took us a while to get to that kind of a design. And throughout this thing, what you see is a healthy mix between the hardened correction reality and the softer reality that we need to help people calm down a little bit more so that we can get them engaged in programming and improve their condition. So I do appreciate that from and all the hard work that you folks have done with that. Now, specifically as it pertains to competency restoration. Now, I know that Commissioner Cook, having dabbled in this a bit, probably with his law career, may be a little more familiar with what I'm going to talk about, but in the state of Kansas, competency restoration has been, probably fair to say, certainly in the view of more than 50% of the sheriff's departments in the state, a disaster. People are waiting for a year to 15 months just to get to learn to have their competency issues addressed, their competency to stand trial. Meanwhile, they're parked in the jails all across the state. And only a handful of the jails across the state even have any system that will help those people, even start to help those people. The majority of the jails do not. So something had to give, because there's far too few beds at Larned to address the need that we have across the state. So long before actually the law changed in 2022, I believe, and started taking effect in 23. Long before that happened, Shawnee County was trying to beat at that wall, and we had a working group, and I think Commissioner Cook spent some time on that working group, trying to find some way to help us deal with these folks that are sitting in jail waiting to go to Larned for competency restoration. And it was slow going. It was tedious. There's a lot of counter interests that are involved, and it felt like we did a lot more talking than we did acting. And we finally kept pushing until we got some movement, and we got the law to change. And the big change in the law was that Larned could start going out into the communities and holding competency restoration programs. And that sounded great. That sounded, ooh, that's the winning formula. Get them out there, they can start working with people in the jails. And so they did. And Shawnee County was the first jurisdiction in the state that said, we will pilot this. We will get on board with Larned and we will pilot this. And again, sounds great, but then when we started trying to execute on it, we found out there's a little bit of a problem. We get the low-hanging fruit, the folks who may be incompetent to stand trial at this point, but who are mostly cooperative. They'll get along with us. They'll behave. They'll take their medication. Okay, we can get a mobile competency program going in Shawnee County. And we did that, and we maybe have done 15 to 20 people over the intervening 3 years. But that's about 5% of the population, leaving 95% of that population unaddressed. We're still flooding Larned with more people than they have beds to cover, and we still have therefore lengthy delays. So the challenge in the future is, how do you deal with the folks who are too medication non-compliant to be able to get into a competency restoration program at the local level? And that's the egg we're trying to crack in Shawnee County now. And this setup, and this is part of the reason the state of Kansas is willing to come in and partner with us, this setup will allow us to move toward what's called a local or jail-based competency restoration program. And it could come in two versions. It can come in a cooperative between us and the Community Mental Health Center, where we do part of the work, they do part of the work, and we partner between the two. And there's state funding that will help pay them for their work, so it has less of a burden on the local jurisdiction. And if we can get that pulled off with our Community Mental Health Center, which is Vallejo, then that is the way we want to go. And what that'll allow us to do is, since it's all in our hands, we can decide who goes into the program. Right now, Larned decides who goes into the program. And if they're not medication compliant, Larned says, you don't get to be in the program. Well, that's the biggest group of the people who are not medication compliant. So we have to figure out a way to put that in someone else's hands so we can start addressing that problem. And that's what we're hoping to do. And this facility is going to be a big help in pushing in that direction. So competency restoration is, I think, going to be the way of the future, to spread out the burden instead of having these folks sit for so many months in jail just waiting to go. And I was on a conversation with an attorney. I want to say it's the Tenneper and Herter firm, not that it matters, but they have a client that's sitting in our jail that's been there since 2019 and has been to Larned 3 times with no success, still struggling with the competency question. And when that happens, what it shows is that there's a breakdown. A person might come back from Larned, they might be doing good at that point, but then they deteriorate because there's no local control. And that's what we're trying to address. That's a perfect example of what we're trying to address. So this new facility is going to be a big help in pursuing that agenda going forward, but it's also going to take a lot of work from us on the operational side of this picture. So with that, I think we're all happy to stand for any questions that you folks might have.
Commissioner Rippon?
Who determines what inmates go into this facility? Is that?
Well, it'll have to be, since the first floor will be suicide prevention. which means that there'll be people who need suicide intervention or suicide risk intervention, but are also not so far or so severe that they can't be managed here. I think kind of along those lines, you'll notice on this picture, on the right-hand side of this picture, there's a doorway that, and what that does is it goes into a sub-day room. So if we have folks that are maybe a little higher risk, but we still want to try to work with them in this environment, there's 4 cells on the other side of that door, and they have their own day room, and they can be handled with a little higher level of security. And that's what that concept is, because we know we have a whole spectrum of people, but classification does the legwork. That's probably the more precise answer to your question. We have a team that looks at all their behavior, all their charges, all of those factors, and decides if they're a good fit in the program.
But it's our internal staff that makes that decision.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Mays?
Are there any facilities like this in our region?
There, right now, no. I think about a year and a half after we started pursuing this, some other jurisdictions in Kansas started seeing this as the future, and they have started working toward it. This facility is the first one that's being built within a jail or a detention environment. There's one being built in Shawnee, or Sedgwick County, being built in a cooperative between KDADS and Sedgwick County, where it's being built by Sedgwick County, but it'll be managed by the state. So it's like a mini Larned that'll be in Sedgwick County. But again, it's not a detention center, it's a full-on hospital setting. So we are well ahead of the curve, and I don't know of any other in the region that has done this kind of work specifically. There are some places, I think Tulsa was working on one. Me and Director Cole went out to Columbus, Ohio, and looked at what they were building, and just between you and me, what they built just looks like a segregation unit. It's not really going to help the situation. They'll learn that over time. But there are some places, I think Bexar County in Texas is working on some kind of a program like that. But in this region, no.
As I've said before, I want to express my gratitude to the state of Kansas for match. We would not be able to construct a facility that we're looking at today without that additional $10 million match. But that being said, I think this also demonstrates the real need for additional mental health services in the state. How backlogged Larned is, I mean, has got us to the point where we're at. And so Shawnee County stepping up to address the mental health. I mean, I want to thank Brian and Tim and KBS and HTK for everybody for their work on getting us to this point. I'm going to look forward to seeing the construction and opening of this, because I mean, mental health in Shawnee County, in corrections, that's become the forefront. Director Cole has said it a number of times that we are the #1 mental health provider in many cases to Shawnee County. And so being able to address that restoration to competency so we don't have cases being delayed and languish and people being able to see resolution to the matters. So, Commissioner Rippon, any other additional thoughts?
Yeah, I just carry on with some of your thoughts. I think this is great for this population that have committed a crime and now can get some kind of treatment and help. But we have a lot of people that have not committed a crime, and I think at some point the state's going to need to step up and create another facility similar to what the old Topeka State Hospital, that function that it served, and that would go a long ways to help in our situation. Even a lot of the homeless, that would take care of some of those issues. But anyway, but I think this is a great first step. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mays?
No, I think this is visionary. I think it's fantastic. I think it's money well spent. Again, like Commissioner Cook said, we definitely need to thank the state of Kansas for their contribution. Hopefully the federal government will come through with a little bit additional funding for some of the FF&E and HVAC and stuff like that.
Yeah, Commissioner, I think on that point, looking at their fiscal cycle, I expect probably in September, we will hear how much success we had with that request we made for those funds.
Yeah. And, I mean, that'll be big if that comes through as well. You know, public safety is something that we talk a lot about, and mental health, homelessness, crime. I mean, this kind of ties all those together in some way. And we start talking about rehabilitation rather than just incarceration. And, you know, you guys are doing a good job now, but I think this is a resource that's gonna make it much more effective for us to maybe turn the tide on this a little bit. So I think this is fantastic. Like I said, money well spent.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our next item is public comment. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment? Seeing none. Administrative communications. Any administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Rippon, anything?
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Mays?
Well, I got a chance to participate in some of the Sunflower State games this weekend. My son played baseball out at Bettis, and it was a great turnout. I know there were events happening all over the place with basketball and martial arts and everything else. And so want to thank the volunteers that put that on, because I know that most of the people that put it on are volunteers. And so it is a big economic boost to Shawnee County, and appreciate the folks that do that. It was a good time.
Well, I might note that I think the heat index for today is going to be 110. We are kicking off the Fiesta. I'm not saying those two things go together, but they usually do. And so it is a Fiesta week, and I want to thank everybody who participated in the Fiesta parade this past weekend. Great turnout downtown, and look forward to seeing the Fiesta week coming up and this weekend. We do not have a meeting on Thursday, so our next meeting will be the following Thursday, but we do have a work session on Monday. So we'll see you guys, I guess, back here at the work session next Monday.